Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Burns.
Yeah, Nancy Burns here.
And we're from Future Theater. And you know what we like to listen to?
Bang.
Radio on Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
At 9 p.m.?
What
Eastern.
network?
Oh, the best network on the whole entire internet. Inception Radio Network.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Get ready to pang your head. Your radio host for Pang Radio, Mike Lucas.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Paying Radio. Tonight is Sunday, October 5th, 2014, and we have a very, very good show tonight. It's kind of like a groundbreaking show, information never released, so it's a good one to be listening tonight. And with me tonight is my co-host, Ken Storch. How you doing, Ken?
Hello, people. How you doing tonight? Yeah, you're right, MJ. We're going to have a groundbreaking show, I guess is a good way of putting it. You know, we're gonna dwell into Elaine Douglas's files.
Yep, and we hear there's a lot of files, a lot of pages, and I don't think Marilyn and Dick have even
scratch the surface. Yeah, massive amounts of information, and she passed away here about I'm not really sure, maybe 6 months ago, but she was an avid researcher, very dogged in her pursuits and her research, and some pretty information concerning flying saucers and the U.S. government. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, she was the head of JARS, and that is the Journal of Abduction and Counter Research, and she sent out a quarterly magazine. So she was deep into her research.
Yeah, she was into it big time.
And I believe her website is still active. I'm going to check that quick, and I'll throw it in chat. I believe it is. I'm sure someone's running it for her right now.
Yeah, you can, our listeners, if you go to the type in Oklahoma UFO Paranormal Research Group, they've put up a bunch of her files and you can access them. And there's some interesting information. And we're going to talk about two cases that we just pulled out and studied for the past couple of weeks. So I think our listeners are going to find them very interesting and insightful. So you bet. Hey, I got a couple of shout-outs if we got time there, MJ.
Oh, go ahead. I have a few myself.
Excellent. Well, I want to say hello to Aaron and Carrie. I know they're driving back to Tishmingo, Oklahoma. I was talking to them earlier this afternoon, and they're going to be listening. And you guys be safe on the highway. And thanks again for your patronage and listening and all your questions. And the other one is to Lorna Hunter of La Pig. And I want to thank you, Lorna, for all your hard work and turning us on to some really good guests. Well done. I'm going to be a guest for them tomorrow evening, so I'm looking forward to that. So once again, Lorna, thanks.
Yeah, and Lorna's definitely helping us line up some good guests, too. And we're not going to say who we're going to have, but we're going to definitely have some great people in the field on.
Yep, I think people will be very pleased. Absolutely.
My shout-outs go to, of course, my favorite other mother, Deborah Anderson in Duluth, Minnesota. And today I decided to throw up a little post on Facebook to see where everybody's listening to tonight. So tonight we have Sean Godaru, sorry, Sean, if I'm hatching a name. He's listening in New Orleans, Louisiana. And then we have Dean
Cajun.
Dean Rager listening from Peace Haven, Southeast England.
Oh, jolly good.
Yes. I mean, he must be staying up pretty late to listen to us.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'm
Absolutely.
I'm on a little vacation this week, and I think later in the week I'm a little bit behind on my MUFON cases, Ken. So I'm going to have to do some catching up and some calling, and
Just for our listeners, there was a quite excitement in Breckenridge, Colorado here the last couple of days. The police department got involved. Some strange lights in broad daylight. Actually, it was early morning, but it was daylight over Bald Mountain in Breckenridge. And there were 3 unidentified objects that people were seeing, and they were doing some pretty spectacular flying. They formed a circle, a triangle, and a straight line. And the Breckenridge and the Summit County Sheriff's Department was inundated with calls with people up in Breckenridge, Colorado. Got a good brewery up there. I don't think the brewery had anything to do with it, though.
Ken, I ran across that in my feed too, a story. I'll post that in Inception Radio Network's Facebook page for everybody to read. But I thought about you too when I was reading that. So I seen the case myself come across the feed earlier today too.
Yeah, I had I've got a friend that works for Summit County SO, and he emailed me, say, hey, where are you? We need you. And there's not a whole lot I can do about lights in the sky. But speaking of which, did you get those pictures that Dick sent you of the craft that was sent to me?
Yeah.
Did you get?
I did get them in my email. There's some very good pictures there. What we'll have to do is I will create a folder on my photo bucket, and then I'll give people access to the photo bucket to take a look at them photos, if that's okay with you guys.
Oh, absolutely. And if that doesn't work, they can, once again, I think Dick has got them posted up on the Oklahoma UFO Paranormal page, and there's some comments about, and folks, these are taken with 35 millimeter. That's not Photoshop. They aren't digital. They're taken during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I have not seen any of these on the internet or in any of the books that I have over the years. These are new, different photographs, and they're not just lights in the sky. These were taken, like I said, with some of them with telephoto lens. Some of them were taken from a Coast Guard cutter ship out in the Pacific Ocean. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them that'll just jaw-dropping. Okay, they're not, let's put it this way, they weren't photoshopped, and they weren't hubcaps thrown up in the air and snapshotted, okay? These were taken by a variety of authors, but somehow they were sent to me, and from a contact that I met up in Alaska about 3 years ago, and he or she was still active duty, and they said they would send me something special, and they did, and I think there's more on the way, MJ. I'm trying to get the negatives is what I'm trying to do, just so you know.
Right, and they're black and white too. A lot of them. So I mean, there's some. A lot of them aren't color, and there is one of an object over the. Is it over the Kremlin? It's over some type of Nazi building. So
that's over. That was taken in 1933. It was a naval attaché at the Reichstag I'm not pronouncing that right. I don't think Reichstag in Berlin in 1933, and you can see the Nazi flags, the swastika, in the windows of the buildings. But here's this dome-shaped object, and if you look closely, you can see the people in the parking lot looking up at it.
Yep, and this is Roswell stuff. So
hey, there's no way that object, is hoax. That's the real deal.
Right.
1933. Give me a break. And it's a black and white photograph. I do not know the author of it. It is suspected that it was taken by a naval officer, United States Navy, that was on attach to the embassy there. So it's pretty extraordinary. I urge our listeners to take a look at it. I think they'll find it very compelling.
What I'll do is I will put them in blocks of 5 on Inception Radio Network, and that way, I think there was about 20 in my one email, but I'll do them in blocks of 5 and let you guys, let the listeners see it on Inception Radio Network. So just look on the Facebook page.
And you know what's interesting about the MJ is that, so often people say, it's just a light in the sky. It could be anything. And then when you show a really good photograph, it's automatically, it has to be hoax. It's Photoshop. Well, what's good about these photographs, is that they were taken with 35 millimeter, and there's a lot of the photographs, there's a lot of background definition that gives you perspective of where the object is and how big it is, and you can realize that it's not hoaxed. You know, especially the ones taken from the airplanes. I find those fascinating. Okay,
Right.
because they're
Oh,
taken
yeah.
out of an aircraft window, and okay, well, tell me how you threw a hubcap out there, okay?
Right,
And these are very definitive photographs. I mean, they show an object of material.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll post the first 5 after the show for our listeners. So take a look there and share them with whomever. But this is some pretty groundbreaking photography too. That
Yeah. I get questions all the time. The photographic evidence, and I think, and not that these are a cure-all for the flying saucer or UFO phenomena, but once again, you look at the time frame, you can see pictures of vehicles in the car, and you can tell it was a 1960 Chevrolet or an Oldsmobile or whatever.
I did notice that. Yeah.
And the hairstyles of some of the people, and like the 1933 in Berlin, in Germany, that's pretty compelling, I think.
That's what caught my eye was the age of the vehicles too, in some of the photography. Definitely.
So, yeah.
Well, Ken,
and I urge our listeners. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Well, Ken, go ahead and introduce our guests. They are on the line.
Okay, tonight we are fortunate to have Marilyn and Dick Carlson. They were able to acquire Elaine Douglas's UFO files, and for our listeners who didn't really know who Elaine Douglas was or her background, I'll let Dick and Marilyn address that, but it's very interesting. So, Dick and Marilyn, welcome to Pang Radio and to our show.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hey, wear it on. Hey, why don't you give them, our listeners a little background on Elaine Douglas? You knew her better than I did. I've met her several times, but you guys interacted with her a lot more than I did. So go ahead.
Well, I originally worked with her on a committee to reform MUFON, and made contact with her when we both were relieved of our duties as state directors for MUFON. I was state director of Oklahoma, and she was state director of Utah. And so we did some working together. And in the meantime, she had been diagnosed with breast cancer before, and it came back with a vengeance. And so after she passed away towards the end of January of this year, we got a call from Brad Weiss, who helped her with the Journal for Abduction Research magazine. And by the way, Butch Witowski now has the access to that magazine, and he's maintaining that. And but anyway, Brad Weiss asked us if we wanted her files, and we said, give us 2 weeks, we'll be there.
And how hey, let me interrupt you. How extensive are her files? How many are we talking about?
Oh,
well, we have a total of 378 files.
Okay.
And they're in 8 boxes. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of pages.
you've seen them, Ken.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
And our website is ElaineDouglasFiles.com.
Is where they are.
And on the website, we have 113 of the files listed out of that 378. And so far, we've uploaded 51. So if you go up there, everything that's in blue is.
And correct me if I'm not wrong, but some very extensive research in not only the abduction field, but in the field of ufology and the government. In fact, we're going to talk about a couple of the cases. We picked 2 cases tonight, folks, to talk about that came out of her files, and some of that information was very revealing to me. I had no idea that some of this stuff was going on. So
we didn't either.
But she was very. I told MJ my interaction with her was somewhat caustic in nature, just the way she approached me and how she came across, but very intelligent, she was basically a no-nonsense researcher. I mean, she was very dogged and specific in her research, and from what I looked at in the files, wow, she was one hell of a researcher. I mean, she did her job. She did her homework.
Yes,
we didn't really know what to expect when we got there. We never really visited her in Moab, so we didn't know, if
what to
her
expect.
files were even going to be. But just like her, they were meticulously done. I mean,
very
we
well
didn't
organized.
Have to, even she, Brad also offered us her books.
Are you
and
there?
we said, "Oh man, we're going to have to go through this whole library and pick all these books up." But when we got there, here's a sign up on the edge of the bookcase that says UFO books.
Yeah, she had them separated out from her other books about law and other subjects that she had an interest in. So it was easy for us to pull the bookshop off the shelf.
We ended up with 12 boxes of stuff.
Yes.
Between the books and the files.
Yes.
The books, most of them we sent over to Butch because he was going to set up a library, and we didn't have any room for that.
We left a few with her brother because he wanted some to read. So, Butch got them because he has a library set up that's open to the public. So that was a good place for all those books to go. And
why don't we go ahead? I was going to say, why don't we go into two of the cases out of her file that we talked about, since we've
one of the things that we do not have these posted up on the website
Flight
yet.
800 is.
The TWA Flight 800 is, but the John Ford and the Lufon files are not. And we're withholding those for a little bit until we can make a decision on how to handle these files, because there's names, there's people mentioned there. I know people have reported and written, and there's been TV programs that have been done about John Ford and the Long Island UFO crash. Mm-hmm. But there's some things that Elaine had in her file that none of the researchers have ever seen before.
Yeah, it's pretty telling. Absolutely.
It's very telling.
Hey, just for to update our listeners, and the possible UFO connection with TWA Flight 800, just for our listeners, and especially those on the other side of the marble, Flight TWA 800 crashed off Long Island, New York. Mm-hmm. When was that? 1999? Is that when it went down?
No.
It went. I think it went down right after the towers.
I can't recall right offhand the exact date, but there was some allegation that it had been shot down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well,
Yes.
and if you look at her file, now she kept every newspaper report of that. It's in her file. Of that Flight 800. And I mean, it is when all the different twists and turns, the government did this and covered up that. And,
right.
And the reports of there were, rockets that took it down. And those are right at the beginning of when they first went down. People made those claims on Long Island that they saw a total of 3 missiles go up and hit that airplane.
I saw a interview on CBS Evening News within about 2 days after Flight 800 went down. It was on national news. I never saw the broadcast again. But they were interviewing 2 passengers on another flight that saw the streaks come up from the ocean, and then there was this giant fireball in the sky. Now, what's interesting about these 2 eyewitnesses is that they were very credible, and the reason why they were very credible is because they were active duty Air Force fighter pilots, and they had flown combat missions in the Gulf War, and they were very familiar with missile launches, and both of them were adamant, and they didn't know each other. They were sitting in different parts of the plane, and they saw these streaks rise up from the ocean, and then there was this giant fireball in the sky. So I thought that was very telling. And you never heard that testimony again. They were never called to testify. You never saw a replay of that interview.
There's actually a documentary where we saw here, I think on Netflix. It was about Flight 800, and they actually even had one of the NTSB guys that was involved in it, and some of the stories they came up with.
Now,
me myself, I don't really know if there was a missile or not. All I can tell you is what's in the file. But I'm an investigator, but that's too long ago to.
Well, and according to the TWA 800 Netflix program, if any of you have Netflix, there was a cover-up. And it went all the way up to the Secretary of the Navy.
Yeah, usually, I guess in a crash, from what the NTSB guy says, usually the NTSB takes control. And they had a little bit of control over the Flight 800 parts and pieces and that sort of thing, but they didn't have full control. The FBI and other people came in and took pieces and changed. They had a thing where if it was in a certain place in the ocean, it was red, and it was a certain place in the ocean, it was yellow, and a certain place in the ocean, it was blue. And so they tagged it so they could see the debris field. And people came in and actually changed those tags. And the NTSB guy said, hey, you can't be changing those tags. And they said, you can just leave right now.
Yeah, your services are no longer needed.
Yeah. So
well, and how this may or may not tie into ufology, but correct me if I'm wrong, Dick, Marilyn, is that this crash occurred not too far away from Montauk, and
that's correct.
And John Ford, was he not working on the Montauk project, which they were?
No. He was probably trying to investigate the Montauk project, but he had an organization called the Long Island UFO Network, or LUFON, if you will. And they were working, that small group of people were working on investigating that crash. And there was politics involved with the crash, and he accused some of the townspeople of purposely setting the woods on fire near Montauk to cover up the crash and evidence and so forth. And he ended up being set up in some way that he was accused of attempted murder. That was the original charge on him, of attempted murder of a politician that was in the county. And
hey, Marilyn, before we go any further on that, I just want to clarify something for our listeners, and that is one of the speculation that was going on at the time of Flight TW-800 and the Montauk project is that the U.S. government was working on a particle beam that could be, and this is kind of interesting, that could be used as an anti-missile defense to knock down missiles out of the air.
Directed energy.
A directed energy beam, correct. And I find it fascinating that there is eyewitnesses and some physical evidence indicate that the plane was hit by a missile. And I'm just wondering if they didn't test fire a missile and either the particle beam caught the plane or the missile caught the plane, but it was strictly an accident. It wasn't like they were shooting at the plane per se.
Yes. That's one of the things that on that documentary they said is it was probably one missile was accident, the other two were shot up to try to knock down that one missile.
Maybe it accidentally hit TW-800. So
and anyway, going back to John Ford, he was looking into Montauk and the flying saucer crash.
Right.
And
I believe he was set up.
According to Elaine Douglas's files, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, he was really interested in Brookhaven National Laboratory too. Mm-hmm. In fact, is one of the gals there who was like this receptionist. What's her name here? Anyway, Mona Rowe was her name, And he kept calling her up and, saying, well, you got UFO and you got bodies out there. And so she actually invited him to come out for a tour. And she said, you can open any door you want and allow your own experts to search the UFO evidence. She said she had nothing to hide, but of course he never made it to the lab because
he was arrested.
He got nabbed.
He was accused of attempted murder. And why don't you?
Yeah, this is interesting.
And hey, MJ, does this not tie in a little bit about what Nick Redfern was talking about last week?
Yes, it does. Definitely.
With the fatalities and all the other stuff that was going on in the ufology field.
Oh yeah, that would have tied in well with his book.
Well, as far as we know, John Ford is still in the mental health institution in New York. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have an examination report of his.
Yeah, Elaine had it.
Elaine had it in the files.
Huh.
And
hey, why don't you tell our listeners he was accused of attempted murder? Why don't you just to give an idea how outlandish and how far the government will go to squash someone that it may be on the right trail. What was the murder weapon, Dick?
It was what kind of would happen if you read the newspaper account from the Washington Post, which of course they're always correct, right? One of his buddies in his group, in the Lufon group, I guess they got together and John had problems with the local Republican committee. I guess he ran for office or something and got rejected. And so anyway, he was going to supposedly take these guys out. So this one guy that was part of his group said, well, I can get a hold of some radioactive material. And so I guess he did.
But it wasn't enough to do anything.
Well, they didn't know that at the time. But anyway, they put a wire, the police put a wire on him. And of course, because he reported that, he was going to give you this radioactive material. And so they put a wire on him and he went to John. And of course, John says, yeah, I'm going to take that stuff and stick it under the seat of the truck. And, they're going to be dead in 3 days. I'm going to put it in their toothpaste and all that sort of thing. But, people say crazy things.
Yep.
And that was part of the deal, of course. And the DA, of course, was hard over to make John, the bad guy. And they actually arrested him and arrested his buddy that got the radioactive material. The radioactive material was like hospital quality stuff for doing tests and that sort of thing. So, he could have put it under the seat of the truck and, the guy would have died of old age. So it never would have really made any difference. But anyway, it set him up.
And as a result of that setup, he ended up in court, obviously.
Yes.
And did they do a psych evaluation on him? Is that how they
did? And I'm going to read right here from the examination report.
Go.
In 1993, he retired from his job after an injury on the job. He has a master's degree in public administration. He was circumstantial. Mood was depressed and affect was constricted. He was delusional, he denied suicidal, homicidal ideas or hallucinations. Diagnosis, major depression, single episode with psychosis. Prognosis good with treatment. Recommendations, patient is psychotic, shows delusional influence and is lacking capacity to understand or assist in his own defense. It is recommended that John Ford be placed in the custody of the Commissioner of Mental Health for inpatient psychiatric treatment, and he's still there.
What year are we talking about? Do you know?
Let's see if there's a date on this report. 8/20. Oh no, that's his birthday.
It's got to be there.
Just so you know, I was listening to that evaluation. I'm thinking, hell, I could fit that.
It was June 16th, 1997.
Okay.
And the reason he was depressed, his mother was extremely ill. He no longer could take care of her, and he had to put her into a nursing home.
That would do it.
Yeah.
And, but, that would depress a lot of people,
Well, sure.
And probably because he believed in UFOs and he was you know, back in 97, if you believed in UFOs, our government did a huge thing to make everybody look like they were nutcases if they believed that UFOs existed.
I think they still do that to some extent.
Well, they probably do. And so therefore, I'm a nutcase, you're a nutcase, Dick's a nutcase.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. You know?
And his buddy, the one that got him the radium stuff, he outed John too on the stand. So I think he got 3 years from what I can find. And of course, John went off to the mental institute. So, you know, that's like that could be a lifetime.
Now, I do want to say that in Elaine's files, there were very personal and private letters from John to her. And by reading those personal letters, there was absolutely no indication that this man was crazy.
You know, and I just want to point something out, and this is the cop coming out in me. And that is, you know, we can all sit around and talk about taking somebody out and be angry or upset, okay? But there has to be a substantial step taken, at least in the eyes of the law. And I just want to point this out. The fact that his friend went and acquired the radioactive material, I can see where the prosecutor could say, well, that was the substantial step. What I don't...
wire on him.
What's that?
Then they put the wire on him.
Yeah. However, is there any indication that John told this guy to go get the stuff, or did this guy just show up with it?
No, I think they talked about it, and the guy worked for Grumman at the time, and he could get access. He showed up with this little, lead container that had the stuff inside of it. In fact, the DA brought the lead container out, I guess, to show everybody. But
oh, great!
And it was in the back of his truck when the cops showed up.
Well, you know, in retrospect, I can see where the DA would think that they would have a case. I mean, I think it's pretty weak at this point, but you know, I can see where the DA would, you know, especially if there was an agent within the government behind it saying, "Go ahead and prosecute him."
Yes, exactly, and I think that was exactly the case. That
we don't care how flimsy it is. All we need to do is get them in court, and once they did that, they could have the judge sign off on an eval.
And I really think, in looking through the files, what happened is that their case was a little bit too flimsy, and so they went for the gusto and had him declared psychotic.
Right. That's what I'm getting. That's what I was saying. I think
that can be a life sentence.
Oh, well, it sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
guys.
Because every time he comes up for an eval, if there's an outside force that is pulling the strings, he's going to continue to need further treatment and incarceration.
That's right.
Ken, I'm going to do a quick station break. You're listening to Paying Radio on the Inception Radio Network. Tonight we have on Marilyn and Dick Carlson talking about the Elaine Douglas files, and right now we're digging into the John Ford case. So take it away, guys.
Well, it seems to me, and this is based upon talking with you guys and you guys reading in Elaine's files about this, is that it was and I'm once again, this is the cop speaking. It seemed like a pretty flimsy criminal case. Okay, I think. Any defense attorney could have successfully defended it and not had the charges sustained against John Ford. But what I find fascinating... He
actually went through a couple different attorneys, by the way, trying to overturn his diagnosis.
Well, that's the part that's really baffling, is that the psych eval that they did, he was never convicted of the charges. They did it on his evaluation that he was psychotic, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. He was never ever convicted.
Well, I think too, and being living in a small town like it is, and you know, he was very hard over on UFOs, so they kind of, you know, put him in that category of wearing, you know, a tin hat and a tinfoil hat, and a
Well, sure. The stage had already been set by the mere fact that he was investigating the Long Island crash, and he was pursuing, along the Montauk Project.
Yes.
What a perfect opportunity, especially, and here's I think is the kicker, if he was getting close.
Well, that, and then he was digging up all kinds of stuff on these three Republican. Which he was a Republican, but I guess he decided that because he didn't make it or something, so there was a lot of hatred that he had against those three people. So, a lot of politics there.
Well, usually there always is in a situation like that.
Marilyn and Dick, has any of his family pursued any type of,
He never married.
Okay.
So, I don't know if it was a perceived relationship with Elaine or if it was.
There were a lot of letters.
There was a lot of letters,
mostly from John.
Yes, I wish I could see her letters that she answered back to him. But in reading these letters, it looks like she answered in a. What would I say? A friendly way. So,
she was really fighting to undo the wrong. You know how, you'd have to know Elaine really.
Yes.
And once that she got a hold of something, and then she believed in it, she was not going to let it go.
She was like a bulldog.
Yeah. I had a little bit of an interface with her once myself. But
she was.
I don't know if I won or she won, but.
She was deeply involved with a group that was called Operation Right to Know.
Yeah.
And the head of that was Ed Cormorant. And she was very, very involved in it. And we, on her, the website that we set up, ElaineFiles.com, ElaineDouglasFiles.com, I'm sorry. We have pictures of her where they're in Washington, D.C., and they're picketing in front of the White House.
And the Pentagon.
No,
I guess they didn't. They were going to set up to do the Pentagon. By reading her notes, they're going to set up to do the Pentagon, but for some reason they didn't do it. I don't know why. But.
Yeah, but anyway, Elaine was truly an activist. And she became a strong activist for John Ford because she felt very strongly that he had been wronged.
Well, from what I've read and from what I know, it sounds like he was railroaded into the mental institute.
Yes. Well, I think in looking at the files, I believe that's true.
And it makes you wonder if they're still holding on to him. It makes you wonder what he uncovered. What was it that they were afraid of that if he was allowed to continue to pursue his angle concerning the Montauk crash, the Long Island crash?
I don't
really
know.
That was so long ago too. By now, you would think that they're just a little bit.
You know what, Dick? And I'm just going to throw this out on the table because I wonder if there is a connection, a string, if you will, that ties it to the TWA 800 crash, and they can't afford to have that.
That it very possibly could, and I don't know. It's a quandary of why they're still holding him. I don't know. If I had the funding, let me tell you, I would fly to New York and go to the Mental Health Institute and ask if I can come in as a visitor and sit down and talk with the guy.
Hell, was it Hinkle that shot Ronald Reagan? They've already let him out.
They've already let him out. And he had more money than John Ford.
Well, yeah, and of course he wasn't.
Maybe John is out. We don't know.
Yeah, that could very well be. Yeah.
But. And then the other thing that Elaine was very involved with was abductions and military abductions. MILABs is what they're referred to as. And she was very interested in abductees and starting a support group for abductees. And there was an effort made through the Fund for UFO Research. And at that time, she was a member of MUFON. By the way,
she approached me with my military and what happened with me at Strategic Air Command, and she asked me that question: that did I feel that I had been abducted, or that I had any missing time to reprogram keep out any more information than what I observed when I was in Strategic Air Command. Yeah. And I told her, I said, Elaine, I said, I don't have any missing time. I don't have any reference or occurrences that would indicate to me that I had been, I remember everything, from that incident. And I certainly don't remember, waking up and thinking I was dreaming or anything like that, at least based upon my limited knowledge about abductees.
Right. Well, she did a lot to try and work with and do a research. And there was something called the Abduction Project that was she had tried to get started.
Well, actually, she did get it started, and from what I saw, she had what they would do is they would try to find some real good candidates that were abducted, and then they went for PhD psychologists that would hypnotize the subject, and then they would. But as you get into these files, you start seeing all these things. Well, the psychiatrists wanted $100 an hour, and they didn't want to give any of the information out that what the hypnosis person did. The person that got hypnotized didn't like this one and didn't like that one, and finally quit. And I mean, as you get in these files, it is just unbelievable. I mean, it's just like life today, I mean, this happens, that happens, and this happens, and that happens. But they start out really good,
Well, I think that's symptomatic of ufology as a whole. I mean, you're talking about a subject, first of all, that is not only controversial, but it has all of these stigmas attached to it, okay? And so, I mean, those are some of the roadblocks. MJ, you know that from trying to investigate cases.
Oh, yeah.
People...
But if you read the beginning, her plan was just absolutely the right thing to do.
Well, there's a file called Abduction Project, and if you'll go up on the website, there's many pages to it actually, and so you for
and
those
it's not categorized and stuff.
No, but and it turns out that there was some people involved. That sort of led to the possibilities that they were being infiltrated by government in some way, and so there was accusations, and there was we've got a file called C.B. Scott Jones, and a gentleman by the name of Bob Durant wrote a stinging article about C.B. Scott Jones and his involvement with abductees and his involvement with
a little bit of everything,
not just paranormal, but kind of psyops kind of thing, remote viewing, and there was a lot of questions and accusations about how, C.B. Scott Jones apparently was a spy, according to what I'm reading that was written, and he was a spy who came in from the cold.
Hey, wasn't there a movie like that?
I myself had a situation where I met him and was invited to participate in one of his programs, and I declined.
Yeah, but if you read, he was like the garbage man, but he knew the real high up people.
Yes.
He had his fingers in everything, and
yes.
in the investigation world, in Congress. Governor Pell was he was kind of his right-hand man.
Yeah.
But he was one of the guys that was off in the shadow.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.